glad you're here. Welcome to the Rhinestone Ropers Ranch. We're the Mink family. We're here today to talk about mounted blade throwing. Mounted means on the back of a horse. Blades mean knives and tomahawks. Why should you throw knives off the back of the horse? Start with, people think it's dangerous. Is it dangerous? Being on the back of a horse is dangerous. Of course, it might depend on the horse. If you have a horse that bucks you off every once in a while, you probably don't want to be holding a knife in your hand when you hit the ground. That's something to consider. But I've never seen a horse or a rider injured in mounted blade throwing. I've been throwing for 8 years. I set up this course we'll be telling you about. And for 8 years, my horse has never been touched by a knife. Neither have I. So why should you throw knives off the back of a horse? Well, to start with, it's fun. I remember that movie with Kevin Costner about the tin cup. He says when you hit a perfect stroke and a tuning fork goes off in your loins. Now, I don't know about that. But I do know if you throw a knife and you hear that thud when it hits a target and your knife is stuck in the target as you go past it, there's a tremendous feeling of accomplishment. So it's a lot of fun. Partly it's a lot of fun because it's difficult and no one else is doing it. I'm surprised you even found this site. You know, people aren't searching for things they don't already do. So I'm glad you're here. If you practice this and you get good at it, you'll be one of the very few people in the entire world who can do it. So the reasons to do it are, 1, it's fun. 2, if you can do it, you're special. And 3, it's a good activity to do with your horse. You know, if you can take your horse up on a challenging trail every time you want to work with him, then you both learn something. If you get on your horse, you just ride down the road, there's not much to learn riding down the road. But if you set up a course and you concentrate on sticking knives and tomahawks while you're riding, it's going to put you in tune with your horse. Your horse has to go in a straight line. He can't be wandering around. And as soon as he wanders even a couple inches, if you're thinking about throwing a knife, you'll know that immediately and you'll correct him or you won't stick your knife. So he has to keep his line. He also has to keep his pace. When you're just riding down the road, if you're walking, he trots a little bit, now who cares? Or if he breaks into a lope, you probably don't care about that either. If you're practicing with the grip that you hold on your knife or tomahawk so you can make a good stick at a walk, then your horse had better walk. If he trips, you notice it. If he's speeding up, you notice it. If he gets offline, you notice it because you didn't stick your knife. It's impossible to think about two things at the same time, really. Multitasking is a myth. This is all about attention shifting. He's going to hold his line, he has to hold his pace. If you want to practice throwing your knife at a trot, then you put your horse in a trot, he has to stay in a trot. Or a lope, he has to stay in a lope, and it's got to be a nice easy lope. If your horse is changing paces and you're having to correct him, guess what? You're thinking about your horse and not thinking about throwing your knife. You either didn't get your knife ready, or you didn't get your throw prepared, or you're just late. You're late on everything. So throwing knives and tomahawks from the back of your horse will put you in tune with your horse. He'll be a better horse for it. Also, there's the issue of retrieving your knife. If you make a perfect stick in the target, you still have to bring your horse up to that target, side pass him over to the knife so you can pull it out, and then side pass him away from the target and head on down the trail so you can turn around and do it again. If your horse won't stand still, you know it immediately because you're falling off your horse trying to reach for the knife. If he's careless when he walks up here, the end of the knife is here, he's got his eye next to that thing, you know that. You know that immediately because you're concerned for your horse. So the process of learning to throw a knife off the back of a horse will help discipline the rider to help his horse remain calm, stay on track, stay on pace, and help him be careful with his head as he quietly side passes to the target and he stands still until you get the knife out. Then you tell him to move ahead, side pass him away from the target, and you move ahead. There's a lot of really good things to be learned with you and your horse by throwing blades from his back. Let's talk about our blades for a moment. When we're taking our horse down the line of travel to throw these blades, we want to keep everything as consistent for the horse as possible. You want to arrange it so you're throwing your knife from the same distance that you throw your tomahawk. That way the horse can go down the same path, same way every time, and then you worry about the things that have to be changed. So the challenge was how to get a knife that threw from about the same distance as the tomahawk does. So I made these knives. The knives are actually an inch longer than the tomahawks. The tomahawks are only 15.5 inches. The knife is 16.5 inches. I like a long, heavy knife because it doesn't bounce back as far if I miss. I like them to be silver because part of mounted throwing is showmanship. And at some point, someone's going to be taking a picture of me throwing this knife, and it's happened before. I throw the knife, someone gets a shot. This knife always shows up in the photograph because it's big, the shape is pretty, and it's that bright silver. So I've got some pretty nice photographs of me loping with my horse. I've had my follow through with my knife, and my knife is flying through the air. Next, we'll talk about our targets. I like nice big targets. When you're riding past on your horse, if the target is small and you're concerned about missing it, your knife is not going to rotate like you want it to. So I like a nice big target, and as you can see in mounted throwing, we don't put bullseyes on those targets. We're doing good really just to make them all stick. I like this tripod formation. You can hang your target at your place however you want to, of course. But I like the tripod because it's economical. This was made out of limbs of trees that I had to cut down here at the place. This one is so heavy I don't have to do it, but I do fix something on the back here to kind of make this solid against the two legs, so when I take my knives out, the target doesn't wiggle. The other good thing about the tripods is that the target is tipped back just a little bit. And that's good because you're throwing slightly down at that target, and it's good to have it tilted up towards you. The third leg, from up here straight to the ground, needs to be 9 feet long. The two front legs need to be 8 feet long. And you want your target, the center of your target, to be 6 foot tall. Now this target, as I stand here, a little over 5 feet. So I estimate the center of that target to be about 6 feet since it's on higher ground. Let's talk about our course and our path of travel. As you can see, I've worn a path here with my horse going down this trail and throwing these knives at all these targets. I've got 12 targets set up. 9 of them are set up for a throw by the handle for a 1 spin. And 3 of them are set back farther, and that's for a spin and a half throw. I got some lines here in the ground leading to this target. This marker here I buried is the minimum distance marker. The perpendicular line from the line of travel straight to the face of that target is 11 feet. But the target is pointed not perpendicular to the line, it's pointed at an angle here. Way over here is where this the face of the target lines up with me as I come past with my horse. From the face of that target to this point here is 13 feet. And this is where I like to throw from. Now, if a person were in a contest, and there are rules for the mounted throwing contest that are consistent with everything I'm going to be teaching you here, a person can wait to the right here. They get 2 feet closer, 2 feet closer to that target. The target's not quite pointing at them, but the knife will still stick, no problem. If you come all the way to the perpendicular mark where you're 11 feet away from the target, you're throwing straight from your shoulder. straight from your shoulder, your body plays no part. If you throw at a little bit of an angle, then at least more of your body can help your shoulder. The other issue is when you're at a lope. If you're throwing straight from your shoulder, then it makes a difference which lead your horse is in. If your horse is in a left lead, then his body is angled towards the target just a little bit, and this throw is not as difficult. But if your horse is in a right lead, your horse is angled away from the target, and throwing out here becomes harder. You don't have to worry about that as much if you're throwing at the longer distance at this 45-degree angle. So what I do, I hold my knives in the hand that's holding the reins, knives and tomahawks. I get my horse started down the path. Now I'm looking at the path. I'm also looking at the minimum distance marker, mainly just to know when I'm coming in range. So once I know I'm coming in range and my horse is on the right path, then I adjust my focus to my target. My total attention is on that target. I pull back as I'm passing the correct distance. I let her fly. If I'm coming down the path and my horse comes off the line, I'm thinking about getting my horse back on the line. All of a sudden my distance is right there and I passed it. I've thrown and my knife doesn't stick because it didn't have time to rotate. The minimum distance marker doesn't really tell you when to throw. Your focus on the target should tell you when to throw. I can kind of see the right edge of that target right over on this side, so I know that target's not facing me yet. As that edge on the right side of the target disappears, I know that the target is facing me, and now is when I should be letting go of my knife. I should have had it cocked back a few steps my horse back, but I let it go right here. Now, of course, as you pick up speed, when you move to a trot, especially in the beginning, when you move to a trot, instead of aiming at the center, you might be aiming over here. And at a lope, you might be end up aiming to the side, or you might end up aiming to the top right-hand side of your target. And then it'll drift over and hit the center. After you practice for a while, you'll always just look at the center. You won't have to look at what edge you're going to shoot at. Another thing that's handy to have is a mounting step. To start with, you're going to be picking up a lot of knives off of the ground. And that gets tiresome for both you and your horse climbing in the saddle time after time. Well, there's our introduction to mounted blade throwing. Next time we'll get on the horse and see how we're doing. Thanks for coming. We'll see you next time.